then Indian history has been distorted by the colonial rulers for their convenience. The colonial masters have left long back. So why is this distortion still continuing both within India as well as outside?
So very good question, sir. So in what my studies, what I found is there are five forces acting on Indian history, and like you correctly said, the colonial ideological forces were the first force. They were soon followed by the Eurocentric forces. They were controlling Indian history. Then the vested interests. The vested interests are the organized religions. They had an interest in controlling the Indian identity. They wanted to create an identity for Indians which they'll feel repulsed about. There'll be self-loathing, self-hating, this kind of an identity. They were interested in that kind of a narrative. That's the third force. Yes. The fourth force, the left liberal academia. So they come with a certain kind of sociological lenses which are alien to the Indian context that was applicable in the West. For example, in the West, they had the angry white male who was responsible for all these things like Abrahamic issues and slavery and violence and world wars and all kinds of problems. They have mapped that into India. The angry white male has become the angry Brahmin male. And they bring in all kinds of divisive narratives in the Indian context and talk about every social interaction in India is seen through the prism of oppressor, oppressed, who oppressed whom, who was the victim, who was so on and so forth. So even the way that we look at ourselves has been distorted beyond recognition. So when we look at that, it is said in such a terrible way that you cannot recognize any goodness in yourself. Again, the self-loathing image comes through the alien sociological models that the left, liberal, academic and media are doing. Finally, the Marxists. The Marxists are controlling the education sector ever since Indira Gandhi gave them a free rein. So they are interested in destroying the Indic identity because the Marxist philosophy is change comes on the back of a revolution to destroy the old order. The old order in India is Hinduism. So by destroying Hinduism, they hope to bring their noxious ideology and to bring change. So these five forces, sir, are controlling the narrative of Indian history today. And that is why we're finding that it's not easy to change your narratives. They're tightly controlling the narrative. So you asked, why is it that after the colonialists have gone, we still find these problems? The reason is there are five forces and the three are still relevant. Although the colonials are no longer relevant, the Eurocentric narrative is relevant. The story of the European people, who are they as a people? To answer their questions, they have to answer who the Indians are. So to answer the question why Latin, Sanskrit and Greek are related, the European people have had to construct a story based on the linguistic model. And that model requires that Indians are people from Central Asia into India, the Aryan invasion theory, it requires that. So they hold on to that model. The vested interests want to control your narrative. They don't want you to feel pride about your culture or history. Only if you feel loathing and hatred against your culture and civilization, then you can convert it to a different model. So they are interested in controlling that model. Left liberal academic bias, they just want to show whatever is done in the West, they can also do it over here. And so it's excuse me, in the guise of academic freedom, there is an enormous amount of distortion that assists these other powers over here. The Marxist, we know all about them. So this is the reason, sir. That is why even though the colonials are gone, the remaining forces are still relevant and they're controlling the narrative.
మా వేకప్ ఇండియా .tv లేటెస్ట్ అప్డేట్స్ ముందుగా మీకు రావాలనుకుంటే సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకోండి. అలాగే పక్కనున్న బెల్ ఐకాన్ ను క్లిక్ చేస్తే ఆల్, పర్సనలైజ్డ్, నన్ అనే ఆప్షన్స్ వస్తాయి. అందులో ఆల్ అనే ఆప్షన్ పై క్లిక్ చేయండి.